Since Donald Trump stormed back into the White House, he's done plenty worth discussing. Crazy tariffs that has the economy swerving left and right while our prices rise. Gestapo-like ICE raids often lacking any due process. The gutting of DEI and the whitewashing of history he doesn't like. But now we've reached another item on his authoritarian bucket list. Weaponizing the justice system like a personal vendetta machine, hammering anyone who dared cross him with the fury of a man whose thin skin bruises at the slightest criticism. This is a guy who holds grudges like they're gold-plated heirlooms, nursing feuds against everyone from ex-FBI chiefs to his own former attorneys, turning presidential power into a grudge-settling sideshow that even his staunchest allies whisper looks downright unpresidential. More like a reality TV tantrum than statesmanship. Starting with a jaw-dropping Truth Social tirade demanding indictments that produced headlines in just 5 days, Trump's rewriting the rules of justice with a MAGA pen and a grudge-fueled sledgehammer. This is not politics as usual. It's a high-stakes assault on the rule of law, and it's unfolding right now in real time with the whole world watching. Hello, neighbors. Welcome back to another supplemental installment of Back Porch Files from your neighbor on the left, the podcast about liberal politics, human decency, and life on the blue side of America's ideological divide. My name is Don Spielis, your opinionated host. If you're listening in for the first time, pull up a chair. We're all friends here, no judgments, just straight talk on what's messing with democracy. So today I want to talk about the administration's latest Constitution-straining ploy. The Trump administration's full-throated sprint to turn the Department of Justice into a personal vendetta machine. We're talking indictments served up like revenge porn, firings that smell like a mob shakedown, and hypocrisy so thick you could spread it on toast. This isn't hyperbole. It's happening right now, in September 2025. And by the end of this episode, I promise you'll see why this isn't just bad for Trump's foes, it's a gut punch to the rule of law for all of us. So let's begin at the epicenter, Trump's not-so-subtle arm-twisting of his own Attorney General. All right, so last Friday, September 20th, Donald J. Trump wakes up, grabs his phone, and instead of firing off a rally rant, he drops a bomb on Truth Social. It's addressed straight to Pam, that's Pam Bondi, his handpicked Attorney General, the woman who defended him through 2 impeachments like a pit bull on steroids. But this isn't a love note. It's a public dressing down, a leaked memo of sorts where Trump lays out his beef. Quote, I've reviewed over 30 statements and posts saying that essentially same old story as last time, all talk, no action. Nothing is being done. What about Comey, Adam Shifty Schiff, Letitia? They're all guilty as hell, but nothing is going to be done. End quote. He goes on, railing about almost installing his, quote, Democrat-supported U.S. attorney in Virginia with a really bad Republican past, a woke rhino who was never going to do his job, end quote. That's code for Eric Siebert, by the way, the interim U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, the powerhouse office that handles all the big national security cases. Siebert, Trump claims, got pushed by 2 worst Dem senators, lied to the media about quitting, and said there was, quote, no case. Trump's verdict? No, I fired him, and there is a great case. and many lawyers and legal pundits say so. And then the kicker. Trump name drops his pick to replace the attorney who had worked 675 federal cases. His pick? It's Lindsay Halligan, the former third runner-up for Miss Colorado in 2010. Trump says, Lindsay Halligan is a really good lawyer and likes you a lot. Meaning Pam. Now, who is she? Not some grizzled prosecutor with decades in the trenches, nah. Halligan's a Trump diehard. His personal defense lawyer in the Mar-a-Lago classified doc circus, a White House aide with zero prosecutorial experience, and a background in insurance law where she was actively involved in 3 cases. Yes, 3. By Monday, September 22nd, she's sworn in as interim U.S. attorney, bypassing Senate confirmation, mind you, to, quote, get things moving, end quote, on those cases that Trump was talking about. Critics, of course, are screaming bloody murder. This is installing a loyalist lapdog in the mother church of federal prosecutions, all to fast-track revenge on his hit list. Now, this rant was so unhinged, not to mention it could serve as evidence in future court cases, that rumors were out there that it was meant to be sent to Bondi as a text and that Trump somehow got confused. But potential tech blunders aside, folks, this isn't how it's supposed to work. The DOJ isn't the president's errand boy. It's supposed to be independent. A firewall against exactly this kind of White House meddling. Trump didn't whisper in Bondi's ear. He blasted it on social media for the world to see, like a mob boss yelling orders in a crowded diner. MSNBC's calling it the gravest threat to democracy since January 6th. Even some Republicans, like Rand Paul, are mumbling about fair play without fully endorsing the circus. And on X, it's a war zone. MAGA's high-fiving with finally justice, while the rest of us are trying to remind people that this is just another item on the authoritarianism alert list. And why does this matter so much right now? Because it sets the table for everything that follows. Trump's not just complaining, he's commanding. And when the commander-in-chief treats justice like a takeout menu, we all are the ones who end up paying the check. Now, speaking of paying the check, let's talk about the man in the mirror, or the gold-plated one at Mar-a-Lago. Trump built his entire comeback on one big whine. The deep state weaponized the DOJ against him. Remember? 4 indictments under Biden, make that 5 if you count the Georgia RICO mess, were all witch hunts, election interference, persecution of a political opponent. He screamed it from every rally podium, every late-night Truth Social binge. Hell, on day 1 of his second term, he signed an executive order ending the weaponization of the federal government. Vowed to drain the swamp, protect conservatives from biased feds, the works. Fast forward 9 months. And who's now wielding the weapon? The guy with the tiniest hands and the biggest grudge. Now it's Trump ordering probes into George Soros-funded groups. Anyone want to guess what Soros-funded really means? It's code for anyone left of center. He's firing inspectors general left and right if they so much as glance at his admin's numbers. Shutting down investigations into his allies, like that hush money probe that somehow evaporated. Not to mention the bribe case against Tom Homan that we mentioned in the last episode. CNN nailed it. The White House spins this as turnabout is fair play. Trump's cases? Over nothing. But his targets? Guilty as hell. No evidence required. Just vibes. You know, it's almost poetic. Trump spent 4 years chanting "Lock her up" at Hillary Clinton like it was his national anthem. Now he's the locksmith, and the jail's got a revolving door for Democrats only. X is lit up with the projection, anti-Trumpers dropping memes of Trump as the boy who cried weaponization, while his base cheers that it's a deep state drain. But peel back the rally cheers and what's left? A double standard so blatant it would make Nixon look subtle. Which leads me into my next point. So after that Truth Social post, it didn't take very long for things to get in motion, because just 5 days after that tirade, today, September 25th, 2025, a federal grand jury in Virginia drops the hammer. Indictment of former FBI Director James Comey. 2 counts: making false statements to Congress back in 2020, and obstruction of justice over some alleged leaks. AG Bondi struts out with the presser. "No one is above the law. This reflects our commitment to hold those who abuse power accountable." From rant to reality in just 5 days flat. Now, I'm assuming I really don't need to point this out, but this isn't coincidence, it's choreography. That 2020 probe into Comey's Senate testimony sat on a shelf gathering dust for years until Trump nudged, and poof, it's prime time. NPR's got sources inside the DOJ whispering about career prosecutors getting benched for loyalists. And who's overseeing it all? Our new interim U.S. Attorney, Lindsay Halligan, fresh off her Trump endorsement. The new FBI Director, Kash Patel, Trump's pick, who literally listed Comey as enemy number 1 in his tell-all book. So as I said, social media is exploding, Trump world is doing the TikTok dance. Next up, Shifty Schiff. Politico posted a piece breaking down how this revives a stale case just to scratch Trump's itch. The New York Times warns it'll upend the career ranks, chilling every Fed who dares to think independently. And let's be real, Comey's handling of the Clinton emails did not scream competence. Then he reopened the wound 11 days before the 2016 election, which, is fair game for scrutiny. But timing it like this, it's not justice, it's a drive-by. And never mind the fact that this stunt that Comey pulled right before the election helped Trump, if it did anything at all. This is the canary in the coal mine dropping dead. If Comey can get dragged in on a 5-day turnaround, who's safe? A local district attorney who indicts a Trump donor? A blogger who fact-checks a horribly incorrect tweet? It's not about one guy. It's about normalizing a nightmare. Which brings us to the big picture, or should I say, the ugly American Family album, as it were. Now look, Trump's not the first to flirt with turning the DOJ into a slush fund for scores. History's littered with these low moments, and pulling them out just shows how far we've slid. Take Richard Nixon, the gold standard for presidential paranoia. In the 70s, he kept an enemies list longer than Trump's, urging the IRS to audit journalists, activists, even his own brothers-in-law. Watergate? That was Nixon's crew burgling the DNC, then using the DOJ to cover it up, culminating in the Saturday Night Massacre, where he fired Special Prosecutor Archibald Cox for getting too close to the truth. Does that sound at all familiar? Firing a holdout prosecutor to install a yes man? Nixon did it, and he got impeached for it, and slunk away in disgrace. As the website The Conversation points out, presidents have poked at this beast before. FDR sicked the DOJ on labor leaders and communists in the 30s. Even Jefferson wielded the Sedition Act like a club against Federalist editors. Fast forward, Obama's DOJ got heat for the IRS, quote, targeting of conservative groups. In reality, just audit drama, but it had the whiff of politicization all the same. Trump's first term, a greatest hits reel of meddling, publicly badgering Jeff Sessions to probe Hillary. Mueller and even John McCain's funeral became beef. Just Security, a website that highlights law and national security issues, chronicled a dozen times he pushed for prosecutions of perceived enemies. But here's the gut punch. Trump's not just dipping a toe, he's cannonballing into the pool. Project 2025, that Heritage Foundation playbook that he swears he's never read, even as he's implementing it, calls for gutting DOJ oversight, expanding White House control, prioritizing accountability for his foes, and in orders for U.S. attorneys to hunt Soros phantoms, stalled real reforms like the Vera Institute's criminal justice tweaks after 100 days. It's not reform, it's retribution. And the human cost? While we're glued to the spectacle, farmers continue to get hammered by tariffs, fired watchdogs can't claw their way back, and everyday folks wonder if a tweet could land them in court. Democrats like Cory Booker are blunt. Quote, Trump's saying the quiet part out loud, end quote. Even House Republicans, who yapped about ending weaponization under Biden, are suddenly quiet when it's their guy swinging the bat. This pattern is not ancient history. It's a warning label. We've impeached for less, investigated for less. If Nixon's ghost is watching, he's taking notes and shaking his head. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today, from Trump's explosive post to the Halligan hire that reeks of favoritism, the hypocrisy that would make a funhouse mirror blush, Comey's lightning rod indictment, and the long, sorry line of times when this concept has been toyed with. But here's the truth. This isn't inevitable, it's a choice. We get a vote. So what do we do? Of course, we start with noise. Call your reps, demand hearings, build on that House GOP rhetoric they love to trot out. Support groups like the Brennan Center fighting to firewall the DOJ. And talk. Text your rant, post on your feed, remind folks that this isn't red versus blue. This is us versus unchecked power. Because if justice becomes a weapon, the first casualty is trust, and that goes both ways. Without trust, that fence between our yards, it crumbles. Okay, so that's it for today's rant on Back Porch Files. If this interested you, fired you up, annoyed you, whatever, please let us know. Contact us through one of our social media platforms, the links to which are all on the podcast LinkedIn page, or you can email directly at neighboroutleftpodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from everyone, whether you like what I'm saying or not. I'd like to hear back. We'll be back with a new full episode on Tuesday. So until then, stay vigilant, stay kind, and as always, have the week you'd wish for others.